Welcome back to the Chicago Tomahawk. I'm Mike, and I got my line mate Matt with me. And today we're going to go over the last couple Blackhawks games. We'll talk about the All-Star game, what's going on with the trade deadline, what the interest is like for Kane. They're all over the spectrum with that one. What's it looking like for Taves? And Dominic Hasek had some interesting comments. But we're going to start off with the last couple games. Hey, Matt. Man, excuse me. Hawks lost to the Ducks. That was a kind of a painful one because the Ducks are one of kind of the worst teams in the league, and even though the Hawks are one of the worst teams too, losing to the Ducks the way that they did, it just doesn't sit right with me. Did you catch that game?
Yeah, I got to catch the highlights. Our favorite player, Trevor Zegras, was. He beat us, and I guess after the game, what's his name was McTavish said that every time we lose, he's texting Connor Bedard like, "Hey, you're gonna be here with us next year," and it's almost like a battle of the bad, between the Hawks, the Ducks, and the Coyotes and stuff. But oh man, the NHL needs Connor Bedard to be a Blackhawk for sure.
It's kind of funny, man. Zegras, he like goes invisible because, I notice him and then he's gone. And then I notice him, then he's gone. And then I'll see his jersey. He's not the type of like active player that you notice him every single time that he's on the ice, like McDavid. Why do you think the NHL is trying to push this kid so hard?
I have no idea. I can't answer that. I mean, he I guess he's got a good personality and stuff, but listening to what his takes are after games when it's physical, especially, and he doesn't like getting hit, he's a baby. I think he is. And yes, he has skill, but I mean, Michigan's and stuff it's cool and everything, but hasn't really done anything. And he was a -2 against the Hawks. He was virtually invisible that game. So, and I don't see the hype because there was a comparison of he's like him and McTavish are like the next Kane and Taves, I heard from a couple Hawks writers, and I just laughed. I'm like, are you guys kidding?
Oh my God. Who wrote that?
I don't remember who it was, but Kane and Taves instantly made an impact and got their team in the playoffs within a year. They barely their rookie year, I think they were close, I believe, or they just missed out by a point. But after that, it was playoffs for like the next decade. Yeah. So these guys haven't done anything yet.
Well, they missed the playoffs. They made it to the Western Conference Finals their second year. Then they won the Cup their third year. So I don't know how you compare, Zegras and McTavish to those two.
And if Bedard goes there, he'll make a big impact probably. But I still think they're ways away from making any noise.
Yeah. Seth Jones is proving some haters wrong. I think that he's a good defenseman. I would consider him elite, but the problem is that he's playing on a bad team and he doesn't have a consistent partner. Why do you think the contract weighs down his reputation so bad? And like other contracts don't weigh other dudes down. Say Darnell Nurse doesn't get the kind of hate that Seth Jones gets.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean that's what defensemen like Seth Jones get paid. Like that's the rate. I don't know what people are complaining about. It's still probably 50% are Hawks fans complaining like how much he makes. Like, what does it matter? Yeah, like we're not up against the cap. We're not losing players because of Seth Jones' contract. Like maybe 5-6 years ago, we'd probably lose a good player because he's locked up, but it's not the case. And
right.
He's been the best player. I people were freaking out he was an all-star and not Patrick Kane, but he's almost the best player on the ice every night. His skating ability is amazing. He looks healthy and he's playing with a lot of confidence, and I think that's huge. And when I went to my one game this year, he's the one Blackhawk I noticed. So I think if he keeps it up, we've been hearing his name in the trade rumors, which is kind of going to be a little out there because of that he's got like 8 years. Teams probably wouldn't want to take it on unless there's a like salary retained, but the Hawks would be, pretty crazy to do that. But he's one of the best players on the ice right now. The last, I'd say maybe 2.5 weeks. So he's shutting the haters down, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he consistently, I think that you hit the nail on the head saying that he looks healthy. He definitely looks healthy. And I want to bring up, Patrick Kane, because he does not look healthy. Earlier this year, I was watching like a race for a loose puck, and I saw Kane skating. And typically, Kane is a pretty quick guy, and he looked like his feet were in mud. And I was like, is he dropping off? Like, what is it? Is Father Time starting to get its hold into him, and is he finally starting to drop off? And now they recently mentioned that Patrick Kane has got a nagging hip injury, and ever since I heard that, it all makes sense to me. Like his lack in pep in his step, and that's what it is. And I mentioned in our last podcast that I hope that Kane doesn't, because it's one of those injuries where, you can kind of let it go. It's not one of those things that needs surgery immediately. But if you look at, Siebes, who had to have both of his hips replaced, do you really want Kane to keep on working on this bum hip that he's got? Obviously, I think that he's still an effective player, but he's not who he can be, because I think that his hip injury is a lot more serious than what they're making it out to be. Noticing that his lack in speed. Have you noticed his lack in speed, Matt?
Oh yeah, there's some nights he is virtually invisible too. I mean, he used to, get that puck and, take off. Now it seems like he's coasting and being very cautious when the puck is on the boards. He doesn't want to get hurt. He's got to figure out what he's going to do next year. This is a big time for him.
Yeah.
So he's got to play it smart. I'm sure, his agents are, say, hey, be careful. Don't get hurt. This is a busy week, next 2-3 weeks, whatever it is. And, we're probably not going to see that flashiness that he used to have doing the spinorama and all that kind of stuff. He used to do that like once a game. He'd get that puck and just spin, burning a guy. But yeah, he does. That's a good analogy. His feet do look like they're in mud at times, and you hate to see it, but I'd rather see Kaner, get healthy and decide what he's going to do next year. I hope they don't trade him. Jumping into that, I mean, there's reports of him saying the hip, it's not as bad as people are making it out to be, and then it went off to the whole Ranger trade. How he was kind of not. I guess it seemed like he was disappointed because that was one of the teams that he wanted to play for, obviously with the Panarin reunion and blah blah. But New York went a different direction, and I think it was the right direction for New York. They got a guy who's younger, cheaper, and this guy scores more goals. And then I think that's what Panarin needs. You don't need two playmakers together. You need a guy who's going to fire the puck. And look, it happened. Panarin's first pass to Tarasenko on his first shot scored a goal. So the Rangers fans, I think, are happy too. And I quite honestly am happy. I don't want to see Kane go to New York either.
Yeah, that'd have been brutal to see. I think that, I think one of two things can happen. He could say, hey, you know what? I need to get this hip taken care of. And then the Hawks are like, all right, they shut him down. He gets his surgery, and then they sign him to a contract for next season. Or he gets traded, goes to another team, gets injured, and then it doesn't work out. I can see one of those two things happening. Probably, Kane or staying. I think it would be the smart thing for him to do. It's like the summer's kind of coming up, to get that surgery that he probably needs but hasn't done, and to kind of recuperate and get ready for next season. Yeah,
that would be the smart thing, but I still think part of him wants to go out and be in the playoffs and compete, and he's a winner. He wants to win, and so it's going to be a couple interesting next couple weeks here with him.
There's also been some reports that there is no market for Patrick Kane because of one, the asking price for him, and two, teams are very well aware of his injury and don't think that he'll make the impact that that they're expecting him to make. Do you think that that teams are kind of wary of staying off of him?
Well, yeah, I mean the scouts are, they're like us, and they watch the games, and
Right.
when you see a guy kind of coasting in the neutral zone and not really moving his feet as much and burning guys like he used to do, and he could still still an unbelievable passer, but special teams I think is Kane's big thing now. He's usually the open man. He can work his magic, and he's got great vision and everything, but 5-on-5 play, he's just kind of, like I said, he's invisible at times. And I think some teams are, probably like, hey, we don't want to like you said, they don't want to overpay for a rental guy that's not 100%. And, I've heard reports of, even Dallas wanting Patrick Kane, which I don't really see the fit, but, I guess that having, an experienced 3-time Stanley Cup champion and just a playoff Showtime guy might help that team get over the hump. So I don't know, man. It's weird.
And here's the thing, though, kind of like what we've been getting at is that, Patrick Kane at his best is Showtime. He is that guy who can get you over the hump. What we're seeing now is not that player. And I think that teams are like, you know what? He isn't Showtime right now because of his injury. And I don't think that he has that thing that can get us over. I'm starting to see it.
What do you think the asking price was?
Probably,
say if he went to New York.
Probably a roster player right now, and maybe 2 firsts.
Yeah, I think they made out like bandits with Tarasenko. I think that was very smart, and it's kind of cap friendly. And you know what? Maybe they can negotiate something for next season. So they're kind of helping themselves now and possibly the future. With Patrick Kane, I don't know if it would work out there. I don't think they'd be able to afford his services.
Right. And then, it kind of leads into Taves. Is like, what's the market like for Taser right now? There's still, I think that he could be good on a lot of playoff teams because of his, his game isn't just, it's, he's a shutdown guy. He can be an elite shutdown guy on a contender right now. And if they need him to take those really important, first line draws to make sure they get possession, he can do that. What's the market looking like for him right now?
The top 2, actually, I guess I could say top 3 teams I've heard were Colorado, which I don't know how it would happen. Pittsburgh and Washington, I think would be my picks. But like you said, the shutdown role, I mean, I really think he would be so fatigued by the second round, if they even made it that far, that he wouldn't be as effective as he was when he was younger.
Right.
Because that's a battle, man. You're battling against some really top line guys. Like if you're with Pittsburgh, say, Crosby could, do the offensive work, and you got other good players like Malkin, you got all those guys coming up, and you put Taves in that third line role. I just, at his age, and he doesn't really have a lot of speed either. I mean, he's had that illness, and he hasn't really been the same. I think that'd be a lot to ask of him to be like that Ryan Kessler, like old school Jonathan Taves role.
Yeah. When you have a team like, say, we'll use Pittsburgh for example, and say they play, let's just use the Hurricanes, for a chance. Taves going to be all over. He would need to be all over the place. He wouldn't have to worry about scoring goals. He would just need to worry about defending, which kind of comes naturally to him. I don't think that they have a center on their team that can defend the way that he does.
John, you talking about Pittsburgh?
Yeah, a center.
Yeah, they really haven't had that. They've been losing shutdown guys a lot. I remember when they were winning those cups, they had Nick Bonino, and years back they had Jordan Stahl, and Jonathan Taves is just like those guys.
Right.
But I think right now at his age and just his health not being 100%, maybe close to 80, I think he's that's as high as he's going to get it. But I don't see it happening, man. I think it'd be a lot to ask of him. I'd like to see him more of a, if he's going to go anywhere, to be like a second line type of guy and give him some good, fast players to work with.
Mm-hmm.
He can still put the puck in the net. He's a good power play guy too.
Yeah.
And the experience, man, having that guy in the locker room would just instantly boost. He's a natural leader.
Leadership.
I mean, anywhere he goes, he doesn't need a letter to be a leader. He'll instantly be a huge impact in that locker room.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, man. When it comes to Taves, it's like there's a possibility that that illness that he was dealing with is kind of rearing its head again. And he's like, you know what? I'm not looking to go anywhere. I'm looking to play out this season, and then I'll make a decision in the summer on what I do. Because if he gets traded and he's like, yeah, I've got this illness that's coming up and I can't even play, that's not going to work out. Hey, really, really quickly, do they need to pass a physical when they go to a new team?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe they take a physical or there's a physical done, but a lot of teams like to have their own physical to check, on everything. And usually I remember when we were acquiring all those good players back in the day, they'd say pending a physical, the trade has been approved, stuff like that.
And you know what? That's another thing right there. It's like, can these two guys pass a physical?
Yeah, well, right now, who knows? I think Taves would have a better chance than Kane, obviously,
Probably.
because all this hip talk. But
yeah,
it sounds like, I don't know, man. I feel Kaner, he says stuff that makes you say, oh, this guy wants to stay. There's no way. And then he'll say something like, I was really taken back by that trade. I was disappointed. And it's like, what? Like, you need to just come out and say, hey, I want an extension. I want to be a Blackhawk. Or it's not going to work out. I'm expecting you to trade it. Just say it.
Maybe Davidson's like, hey, look, don't expressively say that, because if you do, we're not going to get any offers, type of a thing. Don't say too much about your hip, because that's going to take away kind of our it's too late now. Yeah. But I think just they're like negotiating, kind of having that little sidecar that they're negotiating. But before we go any further, I want to let everybody know that our sponsor, Manscaped, sells beard products now. That's right. Once again, they're revolutionizing men's grooming with the brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind the Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shape your signature beard look. Now you can finally use Manscaped beard products to make your drapes match your carpet by going to manscaped.com and using code Tomahawk20 for 20% off and free shipping. Now, I've used it. I'm a clean shave type of guy, and to be honest with you, I've used like an electric shaver, which I think are awesome, and then I went back to kind of using like the traditional shaver. And to be honest with you, man, I like having some spare time, and using the electric shaver does that. Using the Beard Hedger is, I would say personally, I think that it works pretty well. It does get like the clippings like all over the sink, because like the thing doesn't take it. But it does a good enough job, and you're probably be saving like $200 from buying a good electric shaver and then using the Pro Hedger. Matt, have you used any of the products from the Beard Hedger Pro Kit?
Yes, I have. I've used the beard conditioner and the cream. It makes the beard nice and soft rather than like prickly. And I got a little baby here, and she's always rubbing her head against me and stuff, and I don't want to get her a rash, but it does, and it smells really good too, which is it's another positive. You don't want to look like Peter Griffin with that nasty beard with the birds growing in it.
Do you just sit there and kind of just run your fingers through your beard now?
Well, it is soft. Yeah. I guess if it's like a nervous thing, I'm doing that. But yes, yeah, I guess I do.
So get 20% off and free shipping with code Tomahawk20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped. Use the Manscaped Beard Hedger, 1-stroke, 1-guard, 20 lengths. You can even take off the guard. It works really great. Now, back to the podcast. Dominic Hasek has been made a comment saying The NHL has sunk to rock bottom, letting Ovechkin's son perform on the ice at the NHL All-Star is spitting in the face of approximately 500 killed, thousands injured, and tens of thousands of kidnapped Ukrainian children. The NHL and Gary Bettman must pay for this heinous act. Now, I think that's pretty bold statement from Hasek, man. I don't think Ovechkin has anything to do with what's going on in the Ukraine. If he has said anything positive about, Vladimir Putin or the Russian government, people have to understand that.
He's Russian.
I would think that Dominic Hasek does understand that Ovechkin is Russian. His family lives in Russia. And in Russia, if you, say negative things about the government, I mean, who knows what they'll do? They can take your family can disappear. Who knows what can happen to you, and so he can't outrightly go against the Russian government, considering that he's a citizen and his family lives there. Like what's going on with Hasek, man? I mean, I know that maybe he's trying to be a freedom fighter, but I don't think that attacking Alex Ovechkin is proper.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't, dude. I'm a huge Hasek fan. As a young goalie growing up, you see this guy doing freaking cartwheels, stopping the puck with his head. He was like, damn, this guy's awesome. He was like a huge role model for goalies, in the 90s. And to hear him say stuff like that, it's just crazy. Like, come on, even Gary Bettman. What does Gary Bettman have to do with your war in Russia? Like, come on, it's a hockey organization. Ovechkin is a hockey player. Yes, he's from Russia. You know how many players are from Russia? He's calling for all the players to be suspended too. He doesn't want any Russians to be allowed to play in the NHL.
Why?
Because of this war, and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Do you are you trying, you're gonna say you get your way and you suspend all the Russian players? Do you know the lawsuits with the players union? Really? He's just an old man yelling at the clouds. And I mean, it's one thing if he's in the front lines helping these people fight, and he's bitter about watching Russian hockey players not saying more and stuff. But like you said, what can they say? If they said something bad, their families are there. Their parents, their aunts and uncles, cousins. They're crazy over there, dude. They could wake up with they could be gone. That's how crazy it is there. So I'm not sure what he's trying to get out of by attacking Ovechkin's small child playing at an All-Star game. It makes no sense to me. That's cowardly, bringing little children involved in it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, old players, they've always got something to say, and a lot of them, they do podcasts and they kind of have their avenue of kind of getting out to their fans. And, Dominic Hasek isn't someone that's, I would say, necessarily done that much in the past. I think he's much more active on Twitter over, say, the past 18 months than he's been previously. And that's cool, but it just seems like he's got a bone to pick with this Russia thing. And I just don't see where the NHL fits in that. I don't know why it's a problem that these Russian players are playing here. Yeah.
What do you want them to do? I mean, what can they do? They can't interfere in that.
Right.
That'd be illegal. And I guess if you have a Ukraine flag, you see all over the place, you put a Ukraine flag next to your name. Okay, what are you doing about it though? That little flag thing doesn't make you, oh, I'm helping. No, it's not. It's support, I guess. But I don't know what he wants Gary Bettman to do about this. There's nothing he can do. If he sent aid that way, I don't know the laws and everything, but that could start a big thing with even the U.S. government. Hey, what are you doing? You don't have you can't do that. Just stuff like that. So he's, like you said, these old players are a lot of them I enjoy actually. They go on podcasts and tell stories, and actually I remember Eddie Belfour being on a podcast, and these two used to be teammates together with the Blackhawks, and
right.
They asked him about Hasek, how was it to play for him? He goes, oh yeah, he He didn't really like to work out. He said he was kind of rude, actually.
Really?
He was a good player and everything, but he didn't like to work out with the team. If you look at him, he is a skinny dude. He like Ryan Miller. Some goalies are different, they're thin, but Belfour was a fitness nut, and he didn't really say it, but he kind of seemed like he wasn't really motivated to play there, and he kind of had some lazy, ways of working out and stuff, blah, blah, blah. But, you hear stuff like that, and then you see this, it's like, maybe Eddie was right. This guy's kind of a dick. So I'd like to see him stay a little quiet about this and leave these Russian guys alone, because there's some good Russian players out here, and we're lucky to be able to see them. Otherwise, they'd be playing in the KHL, like, not getting noticed at all. Like, Panarin is a superstar. You got Ovi, obviously, who's, I think, 70, 80 goals away from passing the great one.
Yeah.
And can you imagine when he does that, what Hasek's going to do? He is going to lose his mind.
Yeah, no kidding. Has Alex Ovechkin played against Hasek?
I think so, man. I think he started in 05, I believe, or 06. And I think Hasek was a Red Wing. I think he still was a Red Wing or just leaving the Senators. So I'm sure he scored goals on him.
Yeah,
he scored on every goalie that's ever played, it seems like. It's crazy.
Maybe he scored a hat trick on him on one night where Hasek's whole family was in the building, and that's pissed Hasek off ever since.
Or he popped him right in that old school bird cage, and just his ears are still ringing. Yeah. Probably.
Matt, did you get an opportunity to watch any of the All-Star game?
No, and I'm glad I didn't, because I've read it was terrible and it was embarrassing, low viewership, and it's turned into a joke. It's just all this weird stuff that has nothing to do with hockey. Dancing around and doing like skits and stuff, like trying to do a little fashion show. That sucks. I like the old stuff. Give me the fastest skater and the targets and breakaway contest, best goalie. Give me that all day. I don't want to see any of this stupid stuff.
I've heard that players are actually looking for the league to let them express their personalities more. Do you think that has something to do with it? Maybe they're trying to sell the league a little bit more.
Yeah, but it looks fake. It doesn't look like their real personality. They seem robotic about it and boring and awkward. It's
okay.
Put Jeremy Roenick out there, you're going to get a real dude. These guys, I feel like it's still not, I feel they're still reserved about stuff. And you got some good personalities, obviously. I think PK Subban was a part of the ceremonies, and I think that was smart because he's got a great personality, and I think he's good for the game with that, but he's not playing anymore. And You don't really have many players that are, even Sidney Crosby, he still comes across as so like reserved and, just laid back. And he's not really like flashy or funny. I think Ovi's got a good personality still. But not too many guys that stand out like back in the day, like the 90s guys like JR was always dancing around and, making jokes and just being hilarious. All the USA guys, I thought, like Billy Guerin was good. And who else? Jeez, man, it's been so long since I remember these 90s guys. Even Patrick Waugh had a good personality. He was crazy, but he still had a pretty cool and entertaining personality when you saw him at the All-Star games.
There was a documentary done with Ovechkin, and he was talking about if he would wear the tinted, mirrored visor again. And he said that he would. Apparently, the reason he can't wear it is because he said goalies were complaining that they couldn't see his eyes or something like that. And he's like,
Martin Brodeur.
Yeah. Brodeur
heard that. I did hear that. Yeah. You know what? Brodeur's another favorite of mine, but to hear that's a joke because what's more distracting? That stupid clear neck guard that he wore underneath his helmet.
Yeah.
And that's the same. That thing's bouncing around, and like a goalie doesn't look at the eyes. A goalie looks at the puck. That is the worst excuse. Like, you're mad because this guy is gonna freaking score so many goals on you because he's a freaking natural sniper.
Right.
But yeah, that sucks. Put I love the tinted visor. Didn't Marion Hossa wear one too? I love those.
You know what? I thought that he wore a tinted one. I'm not sure if he wore the mirrored one though. I think Ovi was one who he was the only one who wore the mirrored one. I want to say.
That thing looked awesome.
Yeah,
I remember that. Like all the young kids like wanted to start doing that. They'd buy it and go out and rat hockey and I'm Ovi, and it did look pretty cool.
Yeah, and he had the yellow laces. Like see, like that is like naturally, showing out your personality. Like you're like one of those guys.
Do you know why he wore those laces?
Huh?
He wore them so his mom can pick him out during a game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he stuck to it. So that's pretty cool.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I actually, my high school team, a couple guys used to wear those laces because it kind of matched with the jerseys, and it did look pretty cool. It's different, Now guys are like Mitch Marner's got skates with his dog on it and stuff. Back in the day, you never see anything like that. And that must be skates are so ridiculous right now. The prices, I couldn't believe it when I looked. Oh my
gosh,
they're like $1,000 for a pair of skates,
dude. They're like $1,200.
Now they're customizing stuff. That's got to be another $500 to $800 to do that, and it's all hand done. It's like, what does a skate for me for $1,000? Are you serious?
Man, I remember back in the day when I think it was like the top of the line tax. Were like
CCM tax.
Like
I got
tax
a pair
952s.
Yeah, I got a pair of those, dude, with the white stripe coming down the side. Yeah,
man, those were so sick. I think those at the time those were like $350 or $400 at the time, which was expensive at the time. So what is that like? We're talking about like what, 1999, 2000,
and they're not comfortable when you put on the new ones at all.
Right.
It's like putting on a freaking plastic boot that just literally kills your ankles.
I hear the new ones you have to have them. You got to have them baked.
Yeah, I baked my skates. I'm actually playing Monday back in net, so it's going to be interesting. But I baked mine again just to kind of loosen them up a little bit. But did you know, like, I just found this out maybe like last year. Do you know like goalie skates, how they used to look?
Yeah.
They'd look low and then kind of goofy at the bottom.
Yeah, and like flat.
They're so different now. They look like player skates.
Really?
Yeah, you gotta Google it, because I was so like, I would look at the goalies playing and I looking at their skates. I'm like, why is he so high off the ice? And I was like, dude, he's wearing player skates. But he's not. It's the new boot cut edition of goalie skates, and I just couldn't believe it. I still have the old ones, and I'm going to be wearing them, and I'm going to be like, wow, I wish I had those other ones. I bet you they're so comfortable. Yeah. And I mean, you could probably, and you're up a little higher. It's nice to get that little couple inches of height. Yeah.
That's funny, man. So, I wanted to talk to you one last thing, man. I want to talk to you about, where do you think our defensive prospects go from here? It's February. We've got, a little bit, about 2 months left of the season. Mitchell, Ruse and Isaac are guys who have played a lot of time for the Blackhawks this year. I would say Isaac has played more time for the Blackhawks this season than either of them, even though Mitchell is the guy who made the team and we're supposed to be seeing more of. Where do you think the Blackhawks go from here? Do you think that they should just put these guys on the team and just let them play it out, like the last 2 months?
Well, like you said in the last podcast, with the likely Blackhawks being traded, I think if Jake McCabe's gone, you're going to need one of these young dudes to step up, and they're going to probably get that role. And I really like Isaac Phillips. I really like his game. I really like his game, and I think he could probably take that role, that McCabe's role, if he is dealt, which likely he will be, because hearing a lot of stuff about him with actually the Maple Leafs are really interested in him. Mitchell, this is a weird one because he did make the team, then he got hurt.
Right.
And it's like, come on, this poor kid can't catch a break,
Yeah.
But a couple years or seasons ago, I know the COVID seasons and stuff, but he looked good. He looked faster than Duncan Keith, and he was making smart plays. And I'd like to see him get a full shot. Like, you're in, kid. You're staying here.
Like a Caleb Jones type of shot.
If it doesn't work out at the deadline, you're gone. Something like that. give him a 1-year deal, whatever. I don't even know how many the term is with any of these players except Seth Jones. Everybody else is just a couple of years here and there. But I'd like to see him get one more shot. And you know who else? I know he's not a prospect. I'm really, really impressed with the way Kurashev's been playing. Yep. I'd like to see him stay as well.
I agree. I want to see him stay. Regula is another guy who I think he's played well when I've seen him. Vlasic has played well. We have, this. I think I just named off 5 guys. We've got 5 guys competing for the blue line that I think that if you're to put them on other teams, they'd get a shot and probably make it, and I'd hate to see, we've got a stockpile of these dudes and they're just not getting any playing time because we're playing, Caleb Jones or we're playing Connor Murphy, where these dudes can easily slot in.
I don't understand the Connor Murphy experiment. I really don't. Even last night against the Yotes, he was standing in the slot and just standing still, and they just put one right over his stick. He bends down to try to take the pass away, and the guy buried it for an open netter. It's like, come on, man! Like, look alive out there, dude. Like, you can't just stand there. I never was a fan of him. I know it's mean. I was so upset we traded Jarmelson for him. We traded an elite stay-at-home defenseman, like the way a defenseman should play the game in his own zone. We traded him for that guy, so he'll never live up to that, and that's why I give him a hard time. Yes, he's in the NHL. He's a player. He's all right, but I don't know what we're doing with this guy. And if he sticks around, I still don't understand it. He must be like amazing in the locker room or something, because I just don't see it on the ice.
I've actually heard that he is a really good locker room presence.
I'm sure he's a good dude too, but I don't want to see the Hawks like invest term and a lot of money into this guy, because he's
right.
Like with the new wave coming in with Korchinski, Nolan Allen, and Del Maestro, like these guys are going to be studs. They're going to be better than what we have now. Give them maybe 2-3 years, maybe less. Maybe we'll see Korchinski next season. And right now, if he is on the team next season, he's going to win the rookie of I can't say because Connor Bedard will probably, but he'll be the best defenseman. He'll be the best defenseman rookie of the year.
Connor Bedard might need a little time to adjust though too, He might need a season, because I'll tell you what, Nathan McKinnon was good when he first came in, but he wasn't the player that he is now.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I guess, Jack Hughes too. He's, I always say we give him a hard time, and we did give him a hard time because he deserved it, but he did have a breakout season this year.
Yeah.
And he did he's hurt, actually. He's going to be out for some weeks, and like I predicted, I think the Devils still won't make the playoffs. But yeah, he could take long, but I think they're going to leave him on whatever team he makes, just because of he's like the hype. You're going to get all these fans coming in to want to watch him play, whether it's here, which would be amazing. Even with the Ducks, you got no one else. You have to call him up, and It could take him some time, but I think he is one of those guys. Like every couple years, you get that superstar coming up, like the McDavid, the Kaners, and all those first round picks, and he's going to be the guy. So I think that going back to Korchinski, if he makes the team, he could easily have been on the team this year. They're just being smart. They're being smart. He's going to be an unbelievable player. He looks so good in that World Junior tournament, moving the puck, shooting the puck, and
skates great.
He had a nice clip in preseason with a nice pass, cross-ice pass to Lucas Reichel. And I remember everyone saying, "Oh man, I can get used to seeing this guy." I could too, because I'm a big Lucas Reichel guy. I think he'll be a good Blackhawk next year. And I think we need a good, fast-moving defenseman who's smart. And I think Korchinski, I think he's going to be on the team next year, man. I think we got no choice.
Yeah. I think so too. And to be honest with you, I think I think there's a possibility, or at least there should be, the only defenseman that we're seeing playing for the Blackhawks right now that's going to be on the team next year is probably Seth Jones.
Yeah, and you know what? I'd like to see like an Isaac Phillips play with Korchinski. I think that's the type of player that he needs to have on his pairing to be successful. Both of them need to be successful.
Right.
Seth Jones he needs a stay-at-home mean dude who's gonna cover him and be back in time. Connor Murphy can't do it. He just can't. Jake McCabe, he's good, but I think he's gonna be gone. But we're gonna need to. I hope like we get a couple more first-round picks and we get a nasty, just a defensive-minded guy in the first round. I'd like to see. Obviously, you got to pick the best player available with your first pick, and then maybe the Tampa pick. I'd like to see like filling in some important roles, even a goalie. I'd like to see, but It's going to be interesting, man. I'm actually really excited for the draft.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because there's so much talent in the draft this year that's going to be coming out. You posted about Fantilli, that little scrum the other day at Michigan.
Even Nazar played too last night. He made his debut. I'm not sure what Frank the Tank did, but they made a big thing about him. But yeah, back to that little fight. That you don't see that in college, man. They're ripping off the cages and starting to swing. He was ejected, and pretty cool. Yeah, Fantilli's. I think he'll be a player. I think that's going to be like Reichel, though. I think if he makes the team, they'll probably send him to the AHL, or maybe he'll. I'm not sure what. Is he a senior?
I think he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he'd have to play. He'd have to play in the A at least, and I could see that happening. Even with the Blackhawks, if we were to get him, I think they're going to be really patient with him too, because I think the Connor Bedard, he is so high, and it kind of drops down to like Fantilli at 2, and it's a pretty big gap. But he's still good. He's going to be a good player, which is good to see. If we don't get that first round pick, we're at least going to get the second or third, I believe, and Fantilli's a good one.
Fantilli's got size though too, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I believe he's a center too.
Yeah, he is.
Which I've noticed that the Hawks have been putting Reichel on the wing.
Yeah,
it would be cool to see your next franchise center. Like, hey, this guy's a natural center, and then you got Reichel on the wing, and you got Korchinski in the back. Man, I like that 3 already.
Do you like Reichel is? I mean, he was drafted as a center. He's played center his whole life. Do you think that they've got him on wing because of his size? Do you think they've got him on wing because he can't win faceoffs? What do you think's going on?
I think they just want him to. I mean, it's a bigger role. Maybe he's not ready for it in the NHL. It's a lot different.
Right.
Maybe they wanted to keep some pressure off him. He looked good with Max Domi. Max Domi really liked playing with him, which is another Blackhawk I hope stays, but I think there's a lot of eyes looking at him right now. I'd actually like to see him go and come back.
Yeah.
Like
sign, I could see that
because he says he loves it here, and he's been raving about the city and his family loves it. I think he's a good Blackhawk. I like the way he plays. I love the grittiness and stuff, but going back to him, he had some really good chemistry with Reichel, and that's something Davidson should think about. Like, hey, if I'm planning on having Lucas up next year, Domi looked pretty good with him, and for a cheap another $3-4 million 2-year deal, it's a no-brainer.
In all honesty, man, I think Domi's come to Chicago and kind of resurrected his career a bit.
Yeah, and you know what? We even said he probably made a smart move. He bet on himself, and he's like, hey, I got an advantage here. I got Patrick Kane on my team. Those two look great together early on, and I know they kind of split him up, but he's still producing. Somebody's going to want to take him. I've heard that even Carolina would like to have him back for the playoffs. Or, yeah, you know what? I'd like to see him actually go to Edmonton. I think that having a guy, you got Evander Kane, who's an agitator, you got toughness. You can add more with Max Domi, and he's pretty solid center. That'd be a good pickup, but I haven't really seen the teams interested. I'm just kind of playing NHL 23 like in my mind right now, but I think it would be a good fit over there. Even the Maple Leafs, they need some more toughness in the playoffs, and that's the guy you'd like to have.
Yeah, I agree, man. So, all right, everybody, that's all that we've got for you today. Great conversation, Matt. Nice having you back, man. I'm not talking to the wall here.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for listening. Me and Matt are very, very appreciative. Do us a favor if you haven't, follow us on Twitter. We're going to get our YouTube channel going again, so give us a follow on YouTube. Just look up Chicago Tomahawk, and we'll see you on the next one. This is the Tomahawk, and we're out of here.